Welcome to another edition of our esports breakdown. Today, I've given you the opportunity to go through some Counter-Strike. This is the first video that I've done with this content. Eddie and I both did some content on Call of Duty last week. I hope that kind of gave you guys some background on the strategy and some of the teams. Eddie's got a lot of knowledge around Call of Duty, so it was really nice to have him on. I'm going to first start here at our FSI page. For those of you who don't know, that if you click subscription plans, you can get a free VIP subscription right here, the quarantine month. Join now. You can enter our Discord and get all of our premium content for free. So that would be the first place I would start out. So you can get our core plays for Counter-Strike and every other esport available. So we're going to jump into the slate. We got a 4-game slate back to the road to Rio. I'm going to kind of go through game by game, give you a little bit of background on how I usually construct lineups. Then we'll kind of go from there, give you a couple plays. But full core plays and strategy will be posted in our Discord channel. So let's first take a look at the slate as a whole. ZywOo being on the slate with Vitality. Comes in as our most expensive player, and that's the game we're going to look at first. Similar to Simple, ZywOo just really takes the lion's share of all the kills. When you look at their team, I did a little research and checked out up here. I can get to it. Let's see if I can get to it here. If you look at Vitality in the last 6 months alone, ZywOo is the only one with a positive kill-to-death ratio, and it is by a ton, 334. If I switch it over to 3 month, we still have similar results. And obviously in the last month, you're not seeing anything different. So I think he's definitely worth looking at and targeting. I don't really think he's worth putting him in the captain spot because his floor has actually been fairly low. Godsent's not a tough matchup by any means. They were just swept by the movie stars, and Vitality's been playing really well. And also just a fact, when you look at some of the things on here, you're not always going to see every game. DraftKings doesn't really do a very good job at putting every game log in here, so it can be really skewed if you're just looking for a DFS tip when you're playing Counter-Strike. I would certainly look at game logs a little bit, but don't put too much stock into that because you really need to go to hltv.org. That will give you actually some statistics on how they're performing. The rest of the team, I think, can be used as value plays if you really want to take that risk. But I wouldn't really prioritize any of the other Vitality players other than ZywOo. I think he has upside to win you a GPP, but at that price tag, I'm kind of leaning against him right now in cash. On the other side, we got 3 players, Styko, Zen, and Madden, who all 3 have a 0.7 or higher kill per round in the last 3 months. I think all 3 of them are viable, but it just, right now in this matchup as an underdog, Vitality is coming in at minus 230. I don't really think it's necessary to reach down to them. I think that Madden could definitely pay off that $7,000 price tag, especially if it goes 3 maps. That's probably maybe one of my favorite. I mean, all 3 of them I think are viable to pay off the tag. I just don't know that they have the upside to take anything down. Especially with some other guys in the similar price range that I like a little bit more. So for that matchup, that's kind of where I'm at. ZywOo, and the rest is kind of muddled. I don't really love a lot from this game. So I'm going to move on to Fnatic and Movie Star, which I like a lot more. Obviously, Fnatic coming in at minus 435 is a big favorite against the Movie Stars. I'm not even considering anybody on the Movie Stars right now. Alex is somebody that can kind of carry their team, but I don't think this matchup at 8,000 is even worth considering him. The top 2, Brawlin and Flusha, are probably the first 2 guys that I would put in my cash lineup. followed up by JW as one of my favorite value plays on the slate. He continues to perform really well at a cheap price. His price has creeped up a little bit. I think maybe it was 6,000, 6,200 last slate. Crims, we know, has been one of their best players all year, but has been performing really poorly lately, getting some opening kills, but really can't string a lot together. He's doing a lot of trading kills early in the rounds and just limits that upside of the 2-3 kills in a round, and then maybe, the 4-kill ace clutch. I mean, when he's dying so early in the rounds, it really limits his upside. So I think he's definitely viable for a bounce back spot, but I prioritize the other three first in cash games. I think all three of them are worthy of the captain spot. I typically try to shy away from punting too much in the captain spot. Just for JW's case, if they don't sweep them and he doesn't get the 20-point bonus for the third map, and he performs poorly, just as that he's not one of the featured guys on their team, that can really limit your upside at the captain spot. So for Fnatic, again, I'm targeting Brawlin, Flusha, JW, Crims. If you think he can bounce back and you kind of trust the process of the long-term player, I think that's definitely viable. JW is one of my favorite value plays so far of this slate. All right, moving on to our next game. And I'm going to actually hop over to the Copenhagen game first against Ents, just because I want to kind of cover North and Heretics and then follow them up in the Showdown breakdown. So if I just select their team only here, Farlig went nuts last game, and I think his price is kind of reflecting that. It does have that game log in here, 117 fantasy points, 89 kills, 49 deaths, 2-4 kills, a 1v4 clutch, a 1v2 clutch. He obviously made the most out of getting 3 maps too. He's pretty consistent. Obviously, we see that. I don't really love that they're coming in here as an underdog. I think that price tag, when you compare it to Brawlin, I think Farlig has maybe obviously more upside because he's going to take the lion's share of, similar to Zaiwu. I think he is going to take more of the kills and stuff, but the game environment is not going to be as positive for him. Alu, on the other side for Ents, I do really like as well. I think at a little cheaper price, his upside is not as high as Farlig. He does have a couple 80, 90-point games, and he has been performing pretty well lately. So I think he is definitely viable. Here I do see some more value in Ents, as the favorite here. Sergey, Sunny, a X7 I'm not really considering. An Ariel. Ariel's actually I like a little bit better than X7, but I don't really love either of those two. Sunny and Sergey are both viable here. Again, after we get the top tier here, it gets, again, not all that great. So I think I could kind of see a star and scrub build out of people about tomorrow. So moving on to our last game, and I'll kind of cover it in the classic and then talk a little bit about Showdown. We have North actually coming in here as the underdog against Heretics. I don't really buy those odds a ton. Heretics have lost 4 in a row. Granted, it's been against Vitality, Ninja and Pajamas, Australis, Fnatic. So they have lost against some pretty superior teams, but they have really only been performing well against, the lower teams of that. And North can kind of fall into that category, but I just not sold, especially on Maka's price at 9,800. If you just look at even his recent performance against those really good teams, he's been really average. And then I almost like Navera better just with the cheaper price tag. I just can't see myself playing Maka over Brawlin, Zaiwu, Farlig, Alu. I think all of those I would probably put ahead of Maka, and I might eat those words tomorrow when he puts up a 90-point game because it goes 3 maps and he is leading the team. If you go down a little bit lower, MSL is a typical player that people are using right now because of recent performance. So they go in here, they see 2 games of 70 points, played really well a couple days ago against G2. Has actually had another really good game. I forgot who it was against. But if you look at his long-term numbers, he's not even averaging. His kill to death ratio is less than 1. It's 0.89. So long-term, he really isn't that great of a player. But in the short term, if you really value the short-term form, I think that he is definitely viable in this spot. I just think AZ is head and shoulders better than MSL in this spot. And North in general, so they beat G2 2-1 in overtime, and they beat Movie Stars 2-0. That was an easy sweep, and then beating Contact 2-1 in their last 3. So they're playing really well, and I think that this is a spot that they continue to play really well. And Heretics have, as much as they've had some really friendly DFS games, they've also been on the wrong side of providing really nice DFS games for their opponents, where they're not saving guns. They're not when the bomb's planted. They're not giving up. They're trying to go in for the clutch plays, which is giving their opponents more opportunities for kills. So that's kind of I think Mac is a fine GPP play. I'm not really getting there. Lucky I do like as well, but his price is just a little bit higher than when I've normally liked to play him at the low 6,000 range. One player, do not go for Jumpy. He's their coach who has been subbed in. We had that first episode of a player being out sick, and Jumpy was the coach and hopped in. The player who was sick was about 50 to 60% owned in most contests. So that was a different loop to Counter-Strike that I have not seen as a DFS player. I'm going to jump over to our Showdown page here. Showdown and Counter-Strike has been really chalky for the most part because it's super easy for casual players to do this. And then who is my last player I can put in? Okay. Now, in this case, Heretics is favored, but I honestly, I'm not going to go 3-1. I'm not going to 3-1 stack Heretics here. I will stay. I would certainly start with AZ, whether you put him in your captain spot or not. I think he by far is my favorite play in this entire game. I think you do consider Maka, even though the price is really high. If he does have a ceiling game and a 1-game Showdown slate, that you're not comparing his production to Zywoo, Brawlin, Farlig, Alu, AZ, then you can lose really quickly if he does pop off and have a ceiling game. So I think him and Navera, I would definitely consider as my top 2 Heretics plays. Obviously, they are the 2 most expensive. Lucky is fine as well. Cajun B and Gade, I think is how you say his name, for North, I also would consider as potential value plays here. It all depends on if you want to pay up for that stud in the captain spot. Likely, AZ and Maca are going to be super high owned. It's just, do you want to get that half point advantage by playing them in the captain role instead of your flex? So I think those are the decisions that you kind of have to make when you are building your Counter-Strike Showdown lineups. For me, like I said, I'm going to kind of just always, really trust the process and really look at short-term form. They're 3 months. I also like to kind of move it out to a year. If you look at their lifetime numbers, it can be a little bit skewed sometimes just because they've obviously changed teams a ton. They've changed roles a ton. As I continue to learn the game from an actual Counter-Strike perspective rather than just a DFS perspective, that's enlightened me a lot more on even the roles the players have on the teams. So I think, and how the maps can really dictate how players play. You know, Zaiwu, I'm already going back to when they beat Fnatic 2-1, when he had 48 kills and Inferno in double overtime. I mean, obviously, a performance like that in one map is going to carry the entire slate. I think he ended up with 89 or 90 kills on the entire slate, 48 after that first one, or after that second map where it went to overtime. So I think, again, I would start your builds with Brawlin, Flusha. Maybe consider one of these top three as another stud pay up, and then start diving into some of your value plays in the upper six and low 7,000 plays. I hope you enjoyed this short breakdown of tomorrow's 4-game slate. As I mentioned before, you can go back and check. If you go back to FSI, DFS.com, you can go to subscription plans and you can get the quarantine month for $0. It is absolutely free. You have access to every room. We have our Korean baseball content being posted every day. We have cores for every slate. So even for tonight, we have a 2-game slate for Counter-Strike and a Showdown. All of those contests and cores plays will be posted in our channel for free. So be sure to reach out to me on Twitter. I am Hold the Door DFS. Feel free to reach out, or you can go to our site and join our Discord, ask any questions, and we'll be happy to help. All right, thanks a lot.